travel because I'm curious.
Apola Aquino's most recent project is a film in her series A Woman's Guide to the World. This one tackles surfing in the winter in New Zealand.
It's personal, it's authentic, it's real, yeah, it has ups and downs, and you know, some of the responses from people are that this is what got them out of bed this morning.
Apola decided to make a second segment of her series following the success of the first one, where she decided to make the trip to Antarctica on a tall ship.
I say in the beginning of the documentary that I had read an interview about a novelist who was researching a novel and went aboard this tall ship, and he made it sound excruciating. He said it was the most difficult and rewarding thing he'd ever done, and I just thought, why is it always guys? I've always read mountain climber stories, travelers, sailors. I've always loved these adventure books, biographies, and rarely is it about women. And so something in me got lit on fire when I read about this tall ship. I thought, man, I don't know anybody that's done this. I don't know anybody that's been to Antarctica. It's kind of day 2 to 3 right now, so it's been difficult. I think that it's going to be another, 19 or 20 days on this boat, but I'm sure it'll make sense as we go.
The trip through Antarctica is not for an amateur, and it's not something most people will do in their lifetime. So what was it like being a woman on her own going to the ends of the earth?
Well, when they first showed me to my cabin, I was like, what have I done? I'm getting a little bit claustrophobic as I get older, and the cabins are stacked. And so when I'm lying down, I'm this far away from the one above me, and I just thought, I can't do this for 23 days. And I never had a problem. So it was a huge learning curve. And sometimes in the video, I come in and out of focus because the only thing I could do to get in an interview was to turn my camera around, and it's not like holding a phone and it's just like a selfie stick. It's a heavy camera with a lens and a microphone, and I'm holding it and speaking to it. But it's interesting, doing it by myself, I got to figure out what the show was going to be like.
Apola spent several years going to school in Lloydminster and still comes back here on a regular basis to help her dad sell oil field equipment at Kelrock Industries. Her interest in film started when she was in high school. She eventually moved to Vancouver to study acting. She is also a professional dancer, a passion that would take her to the bright lights of New York City.
Well, I had moved to New York to be a professional dancer, and I was dancing there and always studying acting. And I had, and still have, the best acting coach in the world there. His name is Larry Moss. And he was always telling us women, me and the other women, that you have to be creating your own work as a woman in this business, because it's a difficult business for women. It's a difficult business for women as they age. So you have to be creating your own content, writing your own stories, producing your own work. And that led me to produce my first play in New York. So I wanted to kind of get ahead of that. And I was still young, but I knew that in order to plan for where I want to be in 5 years, I should be starting now at a younger age.
And it was eventually another connection from Lloydminster that helped her move her career forward.
From there, I started producing these full-scale original dance shows in New York with this woman who does all of Beyonce's choreography now, or a lot of it. So she's very successful. But her and I saw each other and started working together at the root of our careers. And I was doing this big, full-scale dance show in New York. We were rehearsing for 3 months and then putting it on in Manhattan. And my dad called me and said, I've got these 2 important friends coming to New York. They're there to raise a bunch of money for a new company, and I want you to meet with them and take them to the fanciest restaurant. Well, I called up Jim, who is now one of the owners of Northern Blizzard, and I said, okay, I've got the best spot in the town for us to go to, and he said, no, take me to your New York. So cut to 4 or 5 years later, I've already produced way more content, done some music videos, short films, live shows, plays. I'm relocated to Los Angeles because I wanted to focus on just the film, so not the live shows. And I had written a screenplay, and it was time for me to get funding for the movie. So I came to Alberta, and I met with Jim, as well as a couple other business people in Alberta. And I said, okay, here it is. This is the work I've done so far. This is what I've done for this amount of money. This is what I've done for free, and that's what it looks like. I need funding for the feature film. And basically, they wrote a check without even reading the screenplay. But they had followed me for 5 or 6 years watching what I was doing. So they funded the feature film. I went to New York and made it. It's called A New York Love Story. It premiered in New York and LA in the film festivals there, and got distribution, and then was released on Amazon and Hulu, which is where it is now. And it's going to be available on iTunes soon.
Apola says she hopes her productions help change minds and attitudes and show women and young girls that nothing is impossible.
Anybody that talks to a girl and only says, oh, you're so pretty, or you're so cute, and oh, look at that cute dress, need to start learning that you have to start, you never say to a boy like, oh, look how handsome you look, or just using that as the only criteria. So to start telling these daughters, like, wow, look how smart that was of you, or look how intelligent that was, or look how creative you are, or look how hardworking you were tonight. Really give them those encouragements, and that's definitely what I got. I do it to inspire other women and men. I do it for the next generation. They're not going to know what to do when they become miserable because they're so saturated with social media and lack of interaction with other people in the world around them. So they're going to be able to turn to this sort of show, or when I develop this into workshops or retreats, they will learn what's been missing in their lives.
A short hour-and-a-half drive north of Lloydminster sits Canada's biggest fighter jet base. Fort Wayne Cold Lake has been home to many members of the military and served as a stepping stone for some to move on in their careers. One of those people is Lieutenant General Pierre Saint-Amand. He was the commander of 441 Tactical Fighter Squadron from 2003 to 2005 and was the wing commander from 2007 to 2009. He is now the deputy commander of NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, located in Colorado Springs.
It is a binational agreement, so both Canada and the United States signed up to share responsibility in the aerospace defense of the North American continent. And again, we've been doing this for a long, long time. Now, how that relates to Cold Lake is Cold Lake has, I guess, two main responsibilities here. Being a main operating base for the F-18, the wing commander there has a responsibility to generate the forces that are allocated to NORAD to do our mission, which is aerospace warning, control, and surveillance. And a second task is also to man quick reaction alert forces. So across North America and in the United States and in Canada, we have a number of aircraft that are on very high readiness, able to take off within minutes to go and intercept whatever problems may arise in aerospace, either over the Arctic or over our domestic airspace. A typical day will start with an operations and intelligence meeting, an update to the commander that I'll take part in, essentially, and we'll spend some time on that, and invariably we'll, in peacetime, because we are in peacetime, and it's not that I want to scare anyone there, that there are things happening. There's nothing happening, but one of our major tasks is to prepare for the worst. So the rest of the day will entail things such as taking a look at plans, making sure our people are well taken care of, meeting all kinds of partners, because as you can imagine, in North America, although the military is big in its mission, the truth of the matter is that we still have to cooperate with the FAA and NAV Canada and organizations of that nature, RCMP, FBI. So there's a lot of relationship that we have to nurture, plans that we have to draft, discussions about risk operations, of course. We have operations ongoing every single day, 24 hours a day for 7 days a week for the whole year, and that never stops. So operations keep us fairly busy on a day-to-day basis as well, and Eventually we get towards about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and like everybody else, we look forward to pack up our gear and go to the gym. So that's about our day.
The career path of Lieutenant General Saint-Amand took him around the world before he accepted his current assignment.
The path from there, as wing commander there, and as just described, there is a linkage to what NORAD does. So I was quite familiar with the NORAD enterprise and the mission that we deliver every single day. But I went to Ottawa. I guess every career will have a stint in Ottawa somewhere when you're in uniform. And from there I went to Belgium, where I was the director of strategic plans for NATO. Came back very quickly to Winnipeg. Was the commander eventually of the NORAD, the Canadian region, because again within NORAD you have 3 regions that are commanded by different officers. So you have the Canadian region, you have the continental U.S. region, and the Alaska region. So I was privileged to have the command of the Canadian region, and after that, once that was done, I was posted here in Colorado Springs, and I did 1 year as a director of operations for NORAD, and then eventually got promoted and took over the post of NORAD deputy.
Lieutenant General Saint-Amand has advice for those looking at a career in the military.
Find yourself a passion and work at it, and of course a good educational base is always something that's an essential.
And the best thing about Lieutenant General Saint-Amand's current posting with NORAD?
The best thing, in fact, is the honor and privilege of wearing the uniform and being part of an organization that protects our citizens directly at home. And I want to contrast that with, of course, the valor and the courage of our folks that are deployed overseas. That is always a very important job and at times dangerous. But here back at home, where we are charged with the defense and security of our people while at home, is crucial. And I think of all the things, that's probably the most valuable aspect of what I do.
It is a long way from North Battleford, Saskatchewan to Bangkok, Thailand. But that is where Don Ferguson now spends his time. Don grew up in Saskatchewan and, as the son of an RCMP officer, moved around a lot. But he excelled at Taekwondo and spent many years teaching and learning at Keys Taekwondo in North Battleford. He is currently a 7th Dan black belt.
I've always, ever since I was a little kid, I always loved, watching martial art movies. And, I used to live in Sturgis before I moved to North Battleford, when I was about 6, 7, 8. And the only time my mom and dad would let me stay up late was on Tuesday nights. They had, at about 11 p.m., they had Kung Fu Theater, they called it. And it was basically these old Chinese movies from Hong Kong, with Shaolin monks and, and stuff like that. So every Tuesday night, I just couldn't wait to watch that. And, and then later on, we moved to North Battleford. And I think I was about 10 years old at the time. And I saw a Taekwondo demonstration at the North Battleford Mall. And I was the first student to join. And ever since then, I've been doing it.
Don won many Taekwondo tournaments and events, and some of the friends he made along the way encouraged him to go to Thailand.
I came here, it would have been over 20 years back now. It would have been a while longer, right? 22, 23. I came here, actually I was going to Japan and Korea, and a buddy of mine said, you should check out Thailand, it's a great place, and Malaysia. So I basically from there just came to Thailand, and Thailand is the type of place that it kind of takes you in, the culture, the people are really friendly, for the most part, that's just the way the culture is, and the food's great. And what happened is they had a Taekwondo Nationals, and I had an opportunity to compete, and so I competed. I was the only foreigner to compete, and I won the gold medal. And after that, when I went back to Canada, because at the time when I went back to Canada, I had a Taekwondo school in Swift Current, and I got asked if I wanted to teach in Thailand. So I came back to Thailand, and that's how it got started.
When he first moved to Bangkok, Don worked several different jobs, and days were long.
Basically, I got here first, and then I just, I used to work, I would work at so many fitness centers and gyms and schools. I'd be up at 4:30 in the morning to get ready to go to these places because Bangkok's, big city. And back then they didn't have a SkyTrain or nothing, so traffic was brutal. So I'd get up at like 4:35 in the morning and I'd get home at like, 11 at night, and just teaching at all these different places. And then eventually I opened my own school, and, I do everything proper, and it's not easy. It's a lot of work to do, for a foreigner to stay here. But, like anything else, if you want to do it, you got to do it.
But Don had learned early that money does not come easily.
When we were living in Sturgis, I must have been about 7 at the time, and I told my dad, I said, all these other kids allowance, and I think I should get an allowance too. So my dad said, well, I'll be right back. And he jumped in the car and went around the corner, and he came back and he said, yeah, I got you a job at the gas station around the corner. You start tomorrow. And so I was so small that I'd need to pull a chair up in order to clean the windshields, but ever since then, I've always had some sort of, job, like even when I was going to school, like, part-time or full-time job. And ever since then, I've just, anytime I've kind of wanted something or wanted to do something, I just basically, I'd work and save, and I would do it. I never borrowed money before, and I never, asked for money before. So that's just kind of how I do things, I guess.
Eventually, Don made more connections in Thailand and opened the Asia Pacific Taekwondo Academy.
So it's a very good close-range kick.
When it first started, there was a place that opened kind of central Bangkok, and it was a really upscale like mall, very upscale. Had like Versace and Prada and that kind of thing. And I told somebody, I was like, I'm going to put a Taekwondo school in there. And they said, you're crazy. I said, first of all, no foreigner can really open a business in Thailand. It's really difficult. And second of all, nobody can open a place in there. And when somebody says nobody, you can't do it, then I'm going to do it. And so I did. I basically hustled and worked and saved, and I got in there and I opened my Taekwondo school there. And I've been there for years. Since then, moved to a different location, and I got about 300 students. And we also do, like you were saying, work with the Mercy Center kids. And what that is there's street kids from the slum. There's a slum called Kluangta. It's a really big slum. There's millions of people in there, and a lot of the street kids who, some of them don't have any parents at all. Some of them, the parents are like addicted to drugs or they're bad alcoholics, and it's just it's the slum. So the Mercy Center is a great place. It gives them education, and it gives them medical, because some of the kids have HIV, and some of the parents have that and whatever. And so basically, I was asked if I wanted to do a show, a Taekwondo show, to help raise money for them. Then I said, not only will I do the show, but I will start teaching them Taekwondo. And we started that about 8 years back. And we're still doing it to this day. It's become so popular that actually one of my full-time instructors was once a Mercy Center kid, and now she's an adult and she's a great instructor. So yeah, it's rewarding.
Baby.
At one point, Don made the jump to include martial arts movies in his career.
Years back, I got a call because I won the Thailand National Championships, and then I got a call from a guy named Pana Ritikrai. He's a guy, if you guys know Tony Jaa, if you heard of him, he's basically his mentor, his master, So I get a call from him and saying that they wanted me to be a part of this movie called Ongbak, which was going to be the first of its kind, like full contact, full impact movie. And they wanted me to help them do the choreography, help them do some of, not the choreography, but come in, and they wanted to film me because they knew how I moved, because I can kick fast and I spin fast. So they wanted to test the film out with me, and then do some consulting and stuff, and working with Tony Jaa. And then after that, they wanted me to work in the movie. And then from there, I've been in lots of Tony Jaa movies and Jackie Chan movies and no Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. I met him many times. Steven Seagal, Mila Jovovich. I've met them all. I got stories I can tell you about all of them. It's interesting, because you meet a lot of these stars when you work on these movies, eh? So I finally said, you know what? I saw what they could do, and I was like, man, if they can do it, I can do it. And so that's what I did. I always wanted to make a movie. I had a lot of stories in here. I wrote a script, and I just said, I'm going to do it. It wasn't easy, but I did it. and yeah, Mystic Blade. So it was good. The Shadow Syndicate can find anyone, anywhere.
And it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears making his own movie.
It took years of my life because, unless you got a lot of money behind you and a lot of people behind you, making movies really difficult. Plus, I made it on film, and most movies nowadays are on digital, and I made mine on film, and film's like a touchy thing to work with, and it can get complicated, and then that stuff you got to try and fix. It was a learning process, I'll say that. I'd like to make another one, but who knows? I'm open to things, so we'll see.
And while Don still comes back to Canada to visit family, he's not sure if he will return to the country he once called home.
My son loves Canada. Every time we go there, he's like, I love it here. I want to go back here. If the opportunity presented itself, I'd go back. I mean, there's some ideas I have. I'd like to do a TV series, or something like that. Yeah, I'd love to, in Saskatchewan, I'm from Sturgis. I always thought that was a great place to do a show, But like I said, I'm not in touch with what's going on there. I am in touch with what's going on here. So who knows?